A shy girl undergoes a gynecological surgery. Shockingly, her doctor is a young millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get into the story. Imagine this, a shy girl, all alone, facing a tough gynecological surgery. What she doesn't know is that her doctor, the one who reassures her, is actually hiding a shocking secret. Back to our main character. Emma Blake, a soft-spoken woman in her mid-20s, sat nervously on the edge of the sterile examination bed. The bright white lights above made everything feel too harsh, too cold. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her hospital gown as she glanced at the clock on the wall. She had been dreading this day for weeks. Today was her gynecological surgery. A simple procedure, or so they said, but for Emma, the thought of being exposed in front of strangers made her stomach twist with anxiety. Her mind raced with thoughts of what might go wrong, and how she'd deal with the pain, both physical and emotional. She wasn't exactly used to being the center of attention. Even in the most casual settings, Emma found it hard to speak up, let alone be the focus of someone's professional attention in a vulnerable state like this. Her self-esteem had taken a hit in the past year, being laid off from her job at the local cafe, struggling with student loans, and the weight of living alone in a small apartment just added to her insecurities. She wasn't sure if she could handle any more stress. But now here she was. She had no choice but to go through with it. The door opened, and in walked Dr. Aiden Carter. He was tall, with short, neatly combed dark hair and a look of complete composure. His professional demeanor was calm, but there was an underlying kindness in his eyes that made Emma feel safe. As he approached her, he flashed her a reassuring smile. "How are we feeling today, Miss Blake?" he asked, his voice gentle and warm, in stark contrast to the cold surroundings. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm just nervous, I guess." "That's completely normal," he replied, placing a hand on her shoulder in a comforting gesture. "You're in good hands." Emma nodded, grateful for his calm presence. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear that until now. Dr. Carter was the type of doctor who made you feel at ease, but there was something else about him, something that kept Emma's thoughts wandering. He was different. There was a quiet confidence in the way he carried himself, something that set him apart from every other professional she had ever met. He wasn't just a doctor. He was something more. As the nurse came in to prep Emma for the procedure, Dr. Carter left the room briefly, giving her a moment to gather her thoughts. Emma couldn't help but wonder about him. He seemed too perfect, but no time to dwell on that. The nurse gently instructed her to lie down, and with a final deep breath, Emma closed her eyes, hoping the next few hours would go smoothly. But what she didn't know, what no one knew, was that Dr. Aiden Carter was hiding a secret that would turn her life upside down in the most unexpected way. For now, though, it was just Emma, alone in the sterile room, waiting for the procedure to begin. Emma's mind was spinning, but the moment she closed her eyes, her body sank into the bed, and the cool, sterile atmosphere of the room began to fade away. Dr. Aiden Carter had left the room, and the nurse was gently prepping her for the procedure. Emma could still feel the faint pressure of his hand on her shoulder. His words replayed in her mind. "You're in good hands." She wished she could believe it completely, but the anxiety was still heavy in her chest. She couldn't stop thinking about the strange calmness he had. He wasn't like the other doctors she'd seen. There was something different about him, but she couldn't quite place it. Was it his confidence? His genuine smile? Or was it the subtle way he made her feel like she was more than just a patient to him? But she couldn't linger on those thoughts now. She had a procedure to get through. The nurse, a kind woman in her late 30s, placed a warm hand on Emma's arm and gave her a soft, reassuring smile. "It's all going to be over soon, sweetheart. Just relax. You're doing great." Emma nodded, trying to take comfort in her words. The soft hum of the machines, the gentle beeping of the heart monitor, and the steady breath of the nurse were the only sounds filling the room. Slowly, Emma allowed herself to close her eyes, letting go of her worries for just a moment. The next thing she knew, she was waking up, groggy and disoriented, in the recovery room. The The bright lights of the room above her made her squint as her head swam with confusion. She felt the dull ache in her lower abdomen and winced, but nothing compared to the storm of thoughts running through her head. How long had it been? Had the procedure gone well? She tried to lift her head, but her body felt heavy, like she was sinking into the bed. Slowly, she turned her head to see a figure standing by her side. It was Dr. Carter. He was looking down at her with a warm smile, his presence instantly calming her. "Hey, how are you feeling?" he asked, his voice soft and gentle. Emma blinked, trying to focus on him. I'm okay. Just a little dizzy." "That's normal," he said, still smiling. "The anesthesia will wear off soon. Just take it easy." Emma nodded weakly, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt strange, like something was off, but she couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. She felt vulnerable, exposed even in this moment of recovery. "You did great today," Dr. Carter continued, his voice steady and reassuring. "The procedure went smoothly, and I'll check in on you again later." "Thank you," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. She couldn't understand why, but she felt a sense of gratitude toward him. It wasn't just because he had done his job. No, it was something more. There was a depth to him, a sincerity that was hard to ignore. As Dr. Carter turned to leave, Emma's eyes followed him. She didn't know why, but she felt an inexplicable connection to him, as though they had shared something far deeper than just a doctor-patient relationship. But before she could fully process her thoughts, the door to the room opened again, and another nurse stepped in. "How are we feeling?" she asked in a cheery voice, pulling Emma's attention away from her thoughts. Emma managed a small smile, nodding again. "Better, just a little tired." "That's completely normal," the nurse said. "Let's get you settled. You'll be here for a little while longer as the anesthesia wears off. Don't worry, Dr. Carter will check on you again soon." Emma barely registered the nurse's words as her mind wandered back to Dr. Carter. What was it about him? Why couldn't she shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye? As the nurse continued to help her adjust, Emma's thoughts drifted again, her mind clinging to the brief moments they had shared. Her heart raced a little faster, a mixture of confusion and curiosity rising in her chest. It wasn't just about the surgery. It wasn't just about the medical procedure. There was something else, something Emma couldn't quite understand. She tried to shake off the feeling, but it lingered, and it was clear that whatever it wasn't going to go away anytime soon. It had been a few days since the surgery, and Emma was still recovering in the comfort of her small apartment. The dull ache in her abdomen had faded, but the strange connection she felt with Dr. Aiden Carter lingered in the back of her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than he let on, that there was something about him that was both familiar and mysterious. Every time she thought about him, her heart would race, and she had no idea why. It wasn't just gratitude for his professionalism during the procedure. There was something else, something deeper. On the fourth day of her recovery, Emma received an unexpected call. Her phone rang while she was sitting at her kitchen table, sipping on a cup of herbal tea. The number on the screen wasn't familiar, but she decided to answer anyway. "Hello," she said, her voice still a little hoarse. "Hi, is this Emma Blake?" A deep, familiar voice asked on the other end. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she immediately recognized the voice. "Yes, this is Emma," she replied, trying to hide the nervousness in her tone. "This is Dr. Aiden Carter," the voice continued. "I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing after the surgery." Emma froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She hadn't expected to hear from him directly. "Oh, I'm doing well, thank you," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "The recovery's been a little slow, but I'm managing." "I'm glad to hear that," Dr. Carter responded. "If you need anything or have any concerns, please don't hesitate to call. I'm happy to help." Emma felt a warm feeling spread through her chest. His voice was so calm, so genuine. "Thank you," she said softly, almost to herself. "You really helped me, more than you know." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then Dr. Carter spoke again. "I'm glad to hear that. Actually, I was wondering if you'd like to meet up for coffee sometime, just to check in and maybe get to know each other a little better outside of the hospital setting." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She wasn't sure how to respond. She didn't want to seem forward or presumptuous, but the idea of seeing him again, outside of a medical environment, felt both exciting and nerve-wracking. I'd like that," she finally said, her voice small but sincere. How about tomorrow afternoon? Tomorrow works for me, Dr. Carter replied. How about we meet at that cafe on Elm Street at 2 o'clock? Emma agreed, and they hung up shortly after. As she set the phone down, Emma's heart was racing. She couldn't believe it. She was actually going to meet Dr. Aiden Carter outside of the hospital. She wasn't sure what this meant, whether it was just a casual coffee or something more. But there was a part of her that couldn't ignore the pull she felt toward him. The next afternoon, Emma arrived at the cafe early. She sat by the window, nervously stirring her cup of coffee, waiting for Dr. Carter to arrive. She had dressed carefully, nothing too fancy, but something that made her feel confident. She had even taken extra time to style her hair, hoping to look presentable. As the clock struck 2, she glanced up and saw him. Dr. Carter walked into the cafe, his presence commanding the room without him having to say a word. He was dressed casually in a button-down shirt and jeans, a far cry from his usual doctor's coat. His hair was slightly tousled, and there was a faint smile on his face as he looked around the cafe. When their eyes met, he smiled even wider and made his way over to her. "Hey, Emma," he said as he sat down across from her. "How are you feeling today?" Emma smiled back, trying to mask her nerves. "I'm doing better. Thank you for asking." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the hum of the cafe and the clinking of cups filling the space between them. Emma couldn't help but notice how easy it was to be around him. His presence was calming, and his gentle demeanor made her feel at ease. As they chatted about everything from the weather to their favorite coffee drinks, Emma felt herself starting to relax. There was something about Dr. Carter that made her feel like she could talk to him, like she had known him for years. She caught herself smiling more than she had in a long time, and she realized just how much she had missed human connection in the past few months. It wasn't just his professional side that was appealing, there was something real about him, something genuine. After a while, their conversation turned more personal. Dr. Carter opened up about his work, his struggles balancing his career and personal life, and his desire to make a difference in people's lives. Emma listened, intrigued by the passion in his voice. She found herself admiring him, not just as a doctor, but as a person. When the conversation eventually died down, there was a brief silence. Emma looked down at her cup, feeling a little shy. "Thank you for meeting me," she said quietly. "I wasn't sure if this was a good idea, but I'm really glad we did this." Dr. Carter smiled warmly, his eyes softening. "I'm glad to, Emma," he said. "I'm happy we could get to know each other outside of the hospital. You're a lot stronger than you think, and I admire that." Emma felt her cheeks flush at the compliment, but she couldn't deny the warmth she felt inside. She was starting to realize that this was more than just a simple meeting. It felt like the beginning of something that could change everything. The next few days passed in a blur for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about her meeting with Dr. Aiden Carter. The memory of their conversation at the cafe lingered in her mind, replaying in the quiet moments when she was alone. His calm presence, his sincerity, and the way he had made her feel like she mattered. It was all so different from what she was used to. She had never met someone like him before, someone who was not only kind but genuinely interested in getting to know her. After the coffee date, Emma found herself checking her phone more often, hoping for another message or call from Dr. Carter, but there was nothing. She told herself she wasn't expecting anything, but deep down, she couldn't help but wonder if there was more to their connection than just a casual conversation. One afternoon, as she was sitting in her small living room, sipping her tea and scrolling through her phone, she received a message from an unknown number. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw the name on the screen, Dr. Aiden Carter. She quickly opened the message. "Hey Emma, I hope you're doing well. I was thinking about our last conversation, and I wanted to ask if you'd like to go out to dinner sometime. Just the two of us. No pressure, of course. Let me know what you think. Take care, Aiden." Emma stared at the message for a moment, her fingers hovering over the screen. She felt a rush of excitement mixed with a wave of uncertainty. Was this just a friendly gesture? Or was he interested in something more? She didn't know what to think, but the thought of spending more time with him made her heart race. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the flutter of nerves in her chest. After a few moments of contemplation, she finally decided to respond. "Hi, Aiden. I'd love to go to dinner. How about Friday evening?" She hit send before she could overthink it. As soon as the message was sent, she felt a mix of relief and anticipation. She put her phone down, trying to focus on something else, but her mind kept drifting back to the idea of seeing him again. Friday couldn't come soon enough. The day of the dinner arrived, and Emma spent hours deciding what to wear. She wanted to look nice, but she didn't want to overdo it. She settled on a simple, elegant dress that made her feel comfortable and confident. She even took extra time to do her makeup, just enough to enhance her features without feeling like she was trying too hard. When she arrived at the restaurant, she was immediately greeted by the host and led to a cozy table in the corner. The atmosphere was warm, with soft lighting and the gentle hum of conversation filling the air. A few minutes later, Dr. Carter walked in, his presence filling the room as soon as he stepped through the door. He looked effortlessly handsome, dressed in a black button-up shirt and dark jeans, his hair styled in that perfect, casual way that seemed to make him look even more attractive. As soon as he saw her, his face lit up with a warm smile. "Hey, Emma," he greeted her, his voice making her heart skip a beat. "You look amazing." Emma felt her cheeks flush at the compliment, but she smiled back. "Thank you, Aiden. You look great too." He took a seat across from her, and they exchanged small talk as they settled into the evening. As the night went on, Emma found herself more and more at ease. The conversation flowed effortlessly between them, and she felt like she could talk to him about anything. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt this comfortable with someone. They laughed about silly things, shared stories about their past, and even talked about their hopes for the future. Emma was surprised by how much she enjoyed spending time with him. As the evening wore on, she began to realize that this wasn't just an ordinary dinner. There was something special about it, something that felt different. By the time dessert was served, Emma couldn't help but feel a warmth in her chest. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew that this was a moment she would remember. Dr. Carter had a way of making her feel seen, heard, and appreciated, and it was something she had never experienced before. As they finished their meal, Aiden leaned back in his chair and looked at her with a thoughtful expression. "I'm really glad we did this," he said softly. "I've really enjoyed getting to know you, Emma." Emma felt her heart swell at his words. "I've enjoyed it too," she said, her voice sincere. "I'm glad we decided to do this." There was a brief silence as they exchanged a meaningful glance, the unspoken connection between them growing stronger. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. As they stood up to leave, Aiden placed his hand gently on her arm, making her heart race. "I'm looking forward to seeing you again," he said, his voice soft and sincere. Emma smiled, her heart full of warmth. "Me too," she replied, as they walked out of the restaurant together. The night felt like the beginning of something new, something Emma wasn't sure she was ready for, but something she knew she didn't want to miss. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Aiden continued to meet, spending more time together outside of the hospital and cafe. Their connection deepened with each passing day, and Emma found herself looking forward to their encounters more than she had anticipated. What started as simple coffee dates turned into long walks in the park, casual dinners, and meaningful conversations late into the night. Aiden was kind, thoughtful, and seemed genuinely interested in her, something Emma had never experienced before. It was clear that he wasn't just interested in her as a patient, but as a person. Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. But despite her growing feelings for him, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something Aiden wasn't telling her. She had noticed the small details. The way he would occasionally withdraw when the conversation turned too personal, the guarded look in his eyes when she asked about his life outside of work. He seemed almost too perfect, and she couldn't help but wonder if there was something beneath the surface she hadn't yet uncovered. It wasn't that she didn't trust him, she did. It was just that she had been hurt before, and the idea of opening up completely to someone felt terrifying. One evening, after a particularly heartfelt conversation over dinner, Emma decided to bring it up. She couldn't keep pretending that everything was perfect when she still had so many unanswered questions. "Aiden, can I ask you something?" she said, her voice soft but steady. Aiden, who had been smiling at her, paused and looked up, his expression attentive. "Of course, Emma. What's on your mind?" She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. I feel like there's more to you than what you're letting on. I'm not trying to pry, but I want to know you truly. I don't want to feel like there's this barrier between us." There was a moment of silence, and Emma's heart skipped a beat. She regretted her words instantly. feeling vulnerable in a way she hadn't intended. She was afraid that she had crossed a line, that she had pushed him away with her honesty. But instead of pulling back, Aiden leaned forward slightly, his eyes soft. "You're right," he said quietly. "There is something I've been keeping from you. But I want you to know, it's not because I don't trust you. It's just complicated." Emma's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Aiden sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not just a doctor. I own a tech company. And it's a pretty big deal. I've been running it for years, and there are a lot of things that come with it. Responsibilities, expectations, and sometimes sacrifices. I've kept that part of my life separate because I didn't want to overwhelm you. I didn't want you to think that I was just another guy with money or status. I wanted you to see me for who I am, not just for what I do." Emma sat there, processing his words. She hadn't expected this. She had known that Aiden was successful, but she hadn't realized the full extent of his success, or the pressure that must have come with it. She could see the weight of it in his eyes now. "So, you've been hiding all of that from me?" she asked, her voice a little shaky. Aiden nodded. "I didn't want to scare you away with it. I know it's a lot, but I want you to know that I'm not just a CEO. I'm a person, Emma, and I want to be with you, not because of what I have, but because of who you are." Emma sat back in her chair, taking in everything he had just said. Aiden wasn't just a millionaire. He was a man who had built something from the ground up, someone who had faced the pressures of success and had kept it hidden behind the facade of a calm and composed doctor. She felt a mixture of admiration and relief. He wasn't perfect, but he was real, and that meant more to her than anything else. She reached across the table, gently placing her hand over his. "Thank you for being honest with me," she said, her voice steady. "I get it now, and I appreciate you being so open." Aiden smiled, his eyes softening. "I'm glad you understand. I just want you to know, I'm here for you, Emma. I'm not going anywhere." As they sat there in the soft glow of the restaurant, the weight between them seemed to lift. Emma knew that there were still uncertainties ahead, but in that moment, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. Aiden had let her in, and for the first time, she felt like she could do the same. The connection between them was real, and no matter what came next, they would face it together. Emma smiled, her heart feeling lighter than it had in weeks. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something beautiful. After that night, everything seemed to shift between Emma and Aiden. What had started as a cautious connection now felt deeper, more real. They spent the following weeks together, enjoying the quiet moments that came with building something new. Their dates became more frequent, and with each conversation, they uncovered more about each other's pasts, dreams, and fears. Emma couldn't remember the last time she felt so understood. Aiden's world was vast and complex. He was the CEO of a successful tech company, a position that came with both admiration and pressure. But when they were together, he felt like just another man, no different than any other, sharing his dreams and vulnerabilities. For the first time in years, Emma felt like she was a priority, like someone actually cared about her well-being and happiness. One afternoon, as they sat together in Aiden's apartment, something he had insisted on inviting her to, Emma felt more at home than she had in a long time. The apartment was sleek and modern, filled with books and plants, yet there was a warmth to it that made her feel at ease. As they sat on the couch, chatting about everything and nothing, she realized how much she had come to enjoy these moments. Aiden was leaning back, his arm casually resting on the back of the couch, his smile genuine and easy. Emma noticed how comfortable he looked in his own space, like someone who had found their place in the world. "You know, I never thought I'd enjoy spending so much time at home," Aiden said, almost to himself, as he absent-mindedly traced the edge of his coffee cup. "There's always so much to do at the office, but when I'm with you, I don't mind staying in." Emma smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "I like that too. It's nice to just be," she said, her voice soft. "No pressure, no rush." Aiden turned his head to look at her, his eyes softening. "Exactly. It's like, when we're together, nothing else matters." Emma felt a flutter in her stomach at his words. There was something about him, something that made her want to take the next step, to trust him completely. But at the same time, she knew she still had doubts. She had always been the type to guard her heart, and opening up to someone as complicated as Aiden felt like stepping into the unknown. It wasn't that she didn't trust him, she did. but the fear of getting hurt was always there, lurking in the back of her mind. "Aiden," she said softly, her voice carrying a tinge of uncertainty, "I've been thinking about us. About everything." He immediately straightened up, his expression shifting into one of concern. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice full of care. Emma took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. I don't want to rush into anything. I've been through a lot, and I want to make sure I'm ready for something this serious." Aiden was silent for a moment, and Emma could feel her heart pounding. She had expected him to be disappointed, maybe even pull away, but instead, he reached for her hand, his touch gentle. "Emma," he said, his voice calm and steady, "I get it. I'm not in a hurry either. What I want is for you to feel comfortable, to feel like you can trust me when you're ready. I'm not going anywhere." His words, so simple and sincere, made her heart swell with relief. She hadn't expected him to understand, but he did, and that realization meant more to her than she could express. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I really appreciate that." For a moment, they sat in silence, holding hands, the weight of their unspoken understanding filling the space between them. Emma could feel the tension in her chest begin to ease. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt like she wasn't alone. She had someone who cared about her, who understood her, and that was enough. As the evening wore on, Aiden suggested they take a walk in the park nearby. Emma agreed, happy to spend more time with him in the fresh air. As they strolled down the path, the city lights casting a soft glow around them, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She realized that, for the first time, she wasn't just dreaming of a better life, she was living it. Aiden had come into her life when she least expected it, and though the road ahead was uncertain, she was ready to face it with him by her side. They continued walking, talking about their plans for the future, and as the night drew to a close, Emma couldn't help but smile. It wasn't the grand gestures or the big moments that mattered. It was these quiet, ordinary ones, shared with someone who made her feel truly seen. As they said their goodbyes at her apartment later that evening, Aiden kissed her gently on the cheek, his hand lingering for a moment longer than usual. "I'll see you soon," he said, his voice soft and reassuring. Emma smiled up at him, her heart full. "I'm looking forward to it." She watched him walk away, her thoughts swirling with everything they had talked about that night. She didn't know where this journey would take them, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to take the next step. As the weeks passed, Emma and Aiden's connection only grew stronger. They spent more time together, sharing not only their days, but also their dreams and fears. Emma found herself opening up more than she ever thought possible. The walls she had built around her heart, brick by brick over the years, were slowly coming down, and it was because of Aiden. He was patient, understanding, and never rushed her. Each time they were together, it felt like a moment of peace in her chaotic world. Yet, even with all the progress they were making, Emma still found herself wrestling with the doubts that had always haunted her. She couldn't deny that she cared about Aiden, and the more she got to know him, the more she felt that undeniable pull toward him. But there was still that lingering fear of getting hurt, of being vulnerable. The weight of her past experiences, the pain she had gone through, was hard to shake off. Every time she thought about fully committing, she felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had been hurt before, and the scars from those relationships still stung, even if she didn't show it. One evening, as they sat together in a quiet corner of a local restaurant, Emma couldn't help but feel the distance between them grow. She had been quiet for most of the meal, lost in her own thoughts. Aiden noticed immediately. "Hey, what's going on?" he asked, his voice gentle but concerned. Emma hesitated, her fork still in her hand. "I don't know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm not sure if I'm ready for all of this. You're amazing, Aiden, but I'm scared." Aiden reached across the table, his hand gently covering hers. His touch was warm and reassuring, a silent promise that he was there. "I don't want to pressure you, Emma," he said softly. "I understand that you need time. I've never once thought that this would be easy, but I also know that you're worth it, and I'm willing to wait for you, however long it takes. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Emma's heart swelled at his words. There was so much honesty in his voice, so much love. She squeezed his hand, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I don't know what the future holds," she said, her voice trembling a little. But I know I don't want to lose what we have. I just don't want to get hurt again. You won't, Aiden reassured her. I promise I'll never hurt you. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she could breathe. She didn't have to have all the answers right away. She didn't have to have everything figured out. What mattered was that she had Aiden, and he was willing to give her the time and space she needed to heal. It was a rare and beautiful thing, and she wasn't about to let it slip away. The rest of the evening passed in a peaceful silence, the tension that had been hanging in the air finally dissipating. As they walked out of the restaurant, Aiden pulled her into a gentle embrace. No matter what happens, Emma, we'll take it one step at a time, he said softly. Emma nodded, resting her head on his chest. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to find out. The next few days were filled with more moments of growth and understanding between them. They took things slowly, enjoying each other's company without rushing toward anything. Emma learned to embrace the present, letting go of her fears and uncertainties, and trusting in the connection they shared. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, life had a way of throwing a curveball. One afternoon, Emma received a phone call that would change everything. It was from her mother. Emma, her mother's voice cracked over the line. I need you to come home. Your father's been diagnosed with cancer, and we need you here. The words hit Emma like a ton of bricks. Her father, the man who had always been her rock, was sick. The man who had always supported her, no matter what, was facing something she couldn't control. Without thinking, Emma dropped the phone, her hands trembling. Aiden, who had been sitting next to her, immediately reached out to her. Emma, what happened? He asked, his voice full of concern. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. My dad, he's sick. He has cancer. Aiden pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as she cried. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I'm here for you, whatever you need. Emma clung to him, her heart heavy with the weight of what was to come. She didn't know what to do next, but she knew one thing for sure. Aiden would be there with her, through it all. As she pulled back slightly, she looked up at him, her face tear-streaked. I need to go home. I need to be with my family. Aiden nodded, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I'll go with you, he said, his voice firm but gentle. You're not alone in this, Emma. I'm here, every step of the way. Emma didn't know what the future held, but in that moment, she realized that having Aiden by her side was the only thing that mattered. She didn't have to face the challenges ahead alone. Together, they could handle whatever came their way. The drive to Emma's family home was quiet, the only sounds coming from the hum of the car's engine and the occasional rustle of the trees swaying in the wind. Aiden was beside her, his hand resting gently on her knee, offering silent support as they made their way to her parents' house. Emma's mind was consumed with worry. Her father's diagnosis had hit her like a wave, knocking the wind out of her, and she hadn't had time to process everything yet. She had never imagined hearing those words, cancer, terminal, treatments, with regards to her father. He had always been the strong one, the one who had carried their family through every storm. And now, the thought of losing him was unbearable. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. Aiden glanced over at her, his expression soft, and he gave her knee a reassuring squeeze. It's going to be okay, Emma, he said quietly, his voice calm and steady. You don't have to face this alone. I'm here, with you, every step of the way. She nodded, her throat tight, but she couldn't bring herself to speak. The truth was, she was scared. Scared of losing her father, scared of what this might mean for her family, and most of all, scared of how much more pain she could bear. She had been through so much already, and now this? It felt like too much. When they finally arrived at her parents' house, Emma's mother greeted them at the door, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. Emma rushed into her arms, unable to hold back the tears any longer. Mom, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I'll be here. We'll get through this together. Her mother held her tightly, her own tears mixing with Emma's. I'm just so scared, Emma, her mother said, her voice trembling. Your father, he's always been so strong, and now this. Emma pulled back, looking at her mother with determination. We'll fight this. We'll do whatever we have to do. We're a team. Aiden stood quietly behind Emma, watching the exchange with a quiet respect. He hadn't known Emma's parents for long, but it was clear to him how close-knit their family was. He was grateful for the chance to support Emma, but he could also see how heavy the situation was for her. Her father was a strong man, but even the strongest people needed help sometimes. "I'm here, Emma," he said softly, as though sensing her need for reassurance. "I'll stay for as long as you need me to." Emma looked up at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. In that moment, she knew she wasn't alone. Aiden had become more than just a support system. He was her rock, someone who would stand by her through the toughest times. The next few days passed in a blur of hospital visits, family meetings, and quiet moments spent with her father, who was still in good spirits despite the overwhelming news. Emma tried to be strong for her family, but each time she saw her father weak, each time she saw the pain in her mother's eyes, it was like a knife to her heart. She couldn't stop thinking about the future, about what would happen if the treatments didn't work, and about the gaping hole that would be left in her life if her father was no longer there. Aiden was by her side every day, offering comfort, keeping her grounded, and helping her navigate the challenges that came with such a heavy burden. He would sit with her in the hospital waiting room, holding her hand, giving her quiet strength when she felt like she couldn't go on. He made sure she ate, he reminded her to sleep, and he even made sure she took breaks when the weight of everything became too much. It was during one of these quiet moments, in a hospital room that smelled faintly of antiseptic, that Emma finally let herself break down. She had been holding everything in for so long, trying to be strong for her family, but the emotions finally overtook her. She sat in a chair beside her father's bed, her face buried in her hands as she cried. Aiden, who had been standing nearby, immediately rushed to her side, wrapping his arms around her. "It's okay to cry, Emma," he said softly, his voice filled with compassion. "It's okay to feel everything you're feeling. You're not alone." Emma clung to him, her sobs shaking. Her body, she had been so afraid of losing control, of giving in to the fear and sadness that had been building inside her. But in Aiden's arms, she finally allowed herself to feel it all. The fear of losing her father, the sadness of seeing her family in pain, and the overwhelming sense of helplessness that had been consuming her. Aiden held her through it all, never letting go, offering her the support she had desperately needed. "You don't have to do this alone," he whispered, his voice a steady presence in her ear. "I'm here, every step of the way. I'm not going anywhere." Those words, simple but powerful, meant more to Emma than she could put into words. In that moment, she realized that she wasn't facing this alone. She had Aiden, her family, and a network of love and support. No matter what the future held, they would get through it together. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. As the weeks passed, Emma and Aiden continued to navigate the difficult journey of her father's illness. The days were filled with hospital visits, meetings with doctors, and moments of quiet reflection. But through it all, Emma had Aiden by her side. He had become her pillar, the steady presence she needed in the storm. Aiden never once wavered in his support, and with each passing day, Emma found herself leaning on him more and more. His patience and kindness made the unbearable seem a little easier to carry. He never pressured her to move faster or to feel something she wasn't ready to feel. Instead, he gave her space when she needed it, and when the emotions became too overwhelming, he was right there, holding her hand and offering a shoulder to cry on. Through it all, Emma's father remained strong, his spirit unbroken even as his body grew weaker. There were days when his smile would light up the room, and others when the pain and exhaustion would take over, but Emma knew that every moment spent with him was a gift. The family continued to rally around him, sharing stories, laughter, and love, trying to make the most of the time they had left together. Aiden, though not part of the family by blood, had become an integral part of their lives. Emma's mother had even started to lean on him for support, grateful for his unwavering presence. It was clear to Emma that Aiden wasn't just there for her. He was there for all of them. But as much as Emma appreciated Aiden's support, she couldn't deny that there was a growing sense of fear inside her. What would happen when her father was no longer there? She had never been without him, and the thought of losing him was terrifying. Aiden noticed the change in her. He had seen the way she withdrew at times, the way her eyes would cloud with worry when she thought no one was looking. One evening, as they sat together in her apartment, Aiden gently took her hand. "Emma," he said softly, his voice full of understanding, "I can see what this is doing to you. You don't have to carry this burden alone. I'm here. We're in this together. Emma looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. She had always been independent, always told herself that she didn't need anyone. But with Aiden, she had learned to let go of that need to control everything. She didn't have to be strong all the time. I don't know what I would do without you, she whispered, her voice trembling. You've been my strength, Aiden. I don't think I could have made it through this without you. Aiden smiled, his thumb gently brushing the back of her hand. You're stronger than you think, Emma. I'm just here to help you see that. His words comforted her, but the truth was, she still wasn't sure how to face the days ahead. The pain of losing her father was something she couldn't fully prepare for, no matter how much support she had. The days turned into weeks, and the time spent with her father became more precious. Emma cherished every moment, every laugh, every shared memory. And yet, the fear of the inevitable lingered, hanging over her like a cloud. Then, one morning, Emma received a call that she had been dreading. Her father's condition had taken a turn for the worse, and it was clear that the end was near. She rushed to the hospital, Aiden by her side, as they made their way to her father's room. When they arrived, Emma's mother was already there, her face pale and tear-streaked. Emma rushed to her father's side, taking his hand in hers. He was pale, frail, but his eyes still held that spark of life. As Emma looked down at him, she felt a wave of love and gratitude flood her heart. This was her father, the man who had always been there for her, and now it was time to let him go. I love you, Dad, she whispered softly, squeezing his hand. I'll always love you. Her father's lips moved in a weak smile, his eyes twinkling as he looked at her. With a final, soft breath, he closed his eyes, and Emma knew that he was at peace. Aiden stepped quietly to the side, allowing Emma and her mother their moment. His heart ached for Emma, for the pain she was feeling, but he knew there was nothing he could say that would make the hurt go away. All he could do was be there, just as he had been from the beginning. After a long while, Emma turned to him, her face tear-streaked but her eyes filled with a quiet strength. Thank you for being here, Aiden, she said softly. I don't know what I would have done without you. Aiden smiled, his voice filled with tenderness. I'm always here, Emma. Always. Emma smiled back, her heart feeling both heavy and full. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, that the pain of losing her father would take time to heal, but she also knew that she wasn't alone. She had Aiden, and together, they would face whatever came next. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a sense of peace settle within her. She wasn't sure what the future held, but with Aiden by her side, she was ready to face it, one step at a time.